So good morning. And even though I know some of you haven't heard the music we just played, I would like to thank my wife for playing a song that makes me sob right before I have to get on and wish everybody good morning. But seriously, good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and welcome to the Sunday celebration for the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast. And today's a special day. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Wishing you a wonderful day and a wonderful time today. And if there's anybody here that's never been to a Center for Spiritual Living, we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you, no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles, whoever you are, and wherever you find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. And to begin our service this morning, my wife Becky, who's a practitioner emeritus, is going to open us with a prayer. And then Carol Gabico, one of our congregants, is going to read us a spiritual reading.
So I just invite everyone to turn within to that place of the Most High. And it's here where each one of us recognizes this wonderful, divine, loving power that is in the seen and unseen and the form and the formless. It's right here where I am knowing my oneness and divine spirit, that it is the very essence of who and what I am. And I'm knowing this for each person who is on this Zoom meeting right here now, and who will be joining us later on watching the recording, that each one of us is the very essence, has this very essence of divine spirit within each of us. And so I am realizing at this moment right now that infinite loving spirit is right here in the midst of the unfoldment of this morning's meeting. That spirit is within Reverend Dr. Ron and guiding and directing his words, this message, that as we open up our hearts and our minds to accept it, to allow it to deepen our consciousness, and knowing that today is filled with its love, with a deeper, higher meaning for each one of us, the truth of our beingness. And so knowing that this loving presence is right here, ready to emerge through each of us right here and now. And so for this and so much more, I just release this, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
So it is.
Partners, an extremely poignant word, especially this weekend. Dads and their offspring facing off the world together. Partners. Celebration of the Emancipation Proclamation. Celebration of partnership between the oppressed and those who really want the barriers to fall. Partners. That special person who holds our heart and our hand as we face the day. Partners. Tiny birds driving off the crow who's trying to attack their nest. Partners. The crazed woman, me, who screams at the two hawks who try to attack the bunny in her yard. Bunny survives. Woman and bunny celebrate another day. Unlikely but significant. Partners. Partners watching out for the other, leading a helping hand, bound together, sometimes inexplicably, but bound. Spirit within that binds all things as one, allows us to be a partner in the universe, the glue that makes us whole. makes us count, gives us reason. Spirit as our partner, as it should be, as it is.
Wow, thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. So if you haven't surmised, my talk has something to do with partners today. In fact, the title is Spirit as Our Partner. And so when we invite Spirit to engage in our life, we can change the course of our life. When we take God on as our partner, we form a relationship that's like none other that we have. We have a friend, so to speak, that we can't see and we can't touch, but that's closer than our breath. We have a power working in and through us in ways that we can't even imagine. And all we have to do is say, okay, Spirit, okay, God, come in and change the course of my life. That seems like a pretty good deal to me. You know, I read a story this week about a rabbinical student who goes to his teacher and he says to his teacher, tell me why, if God provides everything for us, that wheat grows from the ground instead of bread growing from the ground. And his teacher says, well, God supplies the wheat and we must make the bread because that's God's way of showing us that we are partners in creation. You and I, we have the power to co-create with Spirit. And when we don't use that power, when we don't use that potential, we're giving away our power. Marianne Williams, I think, says it really beautifully. She says, you can let the same force that makes flowers grow and planets move run your life, or you could do it yourself. You know, her words remind us that we can consciously court this all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving presence to come into our life and walk our path with us, or we can decide to do it ourselves. It seems like a really easy choice to make, but the truth is, so often we forget and we try to do it alone, and we don't get the results we want. So I had a thought. Sometime today, sometime during the course of this day, go outside and take a look, maybe at the sun, or if you do it later, at the moon, or a flower, or the ocean, or the Banana River or the Indian River. Take a look and remember that the power that created all of that awaits your call to join in and create a masterpiece that you can call your life. So, you know, I read to you what Marianne Williams said. There's something similar in the Course of Miracles written. It says, who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? One of the great writers in New Thought is Joel Goldsmith, and Joel Goldsmith said that spiritual life has its foundation in the saying, I and the Father are one. And he said, therefore, if you think about that, all that God is ours. All that God is ours. And we need to move, to live and move and have our being in God awareness. And how do we do that? We need to go within and listen to that still small voice. And the Unity minister, Eric Butterworth, says it in a little bit different way. In one of his books, he said one of the definitions of God is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Think about that, whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. And he said, you can't draw that picture. It's impossible. But if you think about it, if it's true, and if the center of God is everywhere, that means wherever you are is the center of God. We can't be anywhere that God isn't. And that's the meaning when we say God is omnipresent. So Ernest Holmes, who founded the Centers for Spiritual Living, he said, we have two voices that we can hear. And the first one says, you're following a mirage. You're following an illusion. Accept things the way they are. You can try to be happy, but don't expect much. Don't hope. You can try to be happy, but don't hope. And Holmes says that's the voice of despair. But there's also another voice within us, a voice that says your vision is true, and enter the tunnel and walk through. There's a lamp within you that's already lighted. And as you enter the tunnel, the darkness will disappear because of the light. And eventually you'll realize and you'll discover that the tunnel is your mind. You know, I hadn't really intended to do this, but you know, I told this story, I think a few years ago, about a fellow who's walking in the woods and he sees a structure and he's just really curious why there'd be a structure in the middle of the woods. So he goes in and it's dark and there's a winding staircase and he's more curious. So he starts up the staircase, and every time he takes a step, the preceding step falls into the void, falls into the darkness. And the point, I thought about that with Holmes and the tunnel. And the point of the story is that once we start on that spiritual path, once we do the work, which I'll talk about in a minute, to deepen our consciousness, we can't go back. There's no going back to the old way. Wayne Dyer wrote that our culture teaches us to doubt, that it stresses things like it's wrong, you can't, you're too young, you're too old, you're too big, you're too small, you're a girl, you're a boy, you don't come from the right background, you know, all of those things. I'll bet there's nobody that's listening to me today or who will listen that hasn't heard one of those at some point in their life. And Dyer says, you know, doubt and fear can provide you with learning experiences. Absolutely, they can. But the negative payoffs of learning like that are really obvious. You can't be a happy and self-fulfilling person when you learn from doubt and fear. He said we need to develop a different way. We need to learn our life lessons by trusting and by faith, and to know that I can create anything in my mind that I choose. Anything I choose, I can create. And you know, we say in New Thought something really similar. It's done unto you as you believe. So I read a piece this week by a lady named Shyla Mirgain, and she titled it The Power of Positive Thinking. And in there, she tells a story about a young woman who's had many positive achievements. In fact, if I remember right, she was in the Olympics. She's done really terrific stuff in her life, but she felt that she hadn't accomplished enough, and she felt that she wasn't good enough. And one night, for some reason, one night, she wrote in her journal, "Remember to be kind to yourself. Remember to be kind to yourself." And she kept it up. Every morning she would write that, and every evening she would write it. And what happened, slowly but surely, her life began to change. And here's the point of that story. Our thoughts often always become the lens through which we see the world. Our thoughts become the lens through which we see the world. And oftentimes that lens is distorted and self-limiting. But the fact is that we can train our brain. We can be mindful of our thoughts. We can listen to what's coming out of our mouth, and we can change what we're putting out into the universe. And when we do that, we change what we're experiencing in life. And one of the ways we can do that, let me give you an example from Neville Goddard, who was a New Thought writer and speaker in the 50s. He was very popular. And he has a technique he called the pruning shears of revision. The pruning shears of revision. And what that is, he said, every night when you're going to sleep, before you go to sleep, lie in bed and review the events of your day. And he said, if there was any event or events that didn't turn out the way you wanted them to, replay them right there in your mind. Replay them in a way you want them to turn out, in a way you wanted them to turn out. And he said, what you're doing when you do that is you're building a new picture for the future. And it's never, ever too late to do that. You know, someone once said, when you change the quality of your thoughts, you change the quality of your life. Howard Thurman is a modern day mystic. He's passed on now, but he was a modern day mystic and a fabulous writer. And in one of his books, he tells the story of a group of trees in the Sahara Desert that survived in spite of searing heat and tremendous winds. He said, while the other trees in the area were all dying off, this group sent its roots deep into the ground. And when they did, they found a river that continued to feed them. And so no matter how tough the climate was, when everything else around was dying, these trees not only survived, but they flourished. And I think the lesson here is obvious. If we've developed deep enough spiritual roots, we can survive no matter where life takes us, no matter what kind of difficulties we might face. You know, if you think about this, at least to me, it seems really paradoxical that we are the only creatures on the planet with freedom of choice and the ability to co-create our lives. And yet we continue to suffer from physical, emotional, and spiritual hurts. So why do you think that is? if I had to guess, my guess would be that there are times when we forget who we are. And so when times get tough, instead of doing what the Course in Miracles said or Marianne Williams, we go right to ego and we know how things should be. And when things don't turn out the way we want, or when we face difficulties, we feel lonely and we feel confused. And the truth is that we have a power within us that stands ready, willing, and able to deal and to solve all the issues we can face. And it very simply is the power of our word, our own divine nature. And it can lead us from bondage to freedom. But you and I have to do the work. And the truth is, the work isn't that difficult. It means simply creating an opening for spirit to express. And we don't need to will it, and we don't need to force it. We just need to let spirit love us. And when we open to spirit, it always responds back to you and to me. And so I want to close with something titled Be Someone by Ralph Marston. Be someone. Be someone who listens and you will be heard. Be someone who cares and you will be loved. Be someone who gives and you will be blessed. Be someone who comforts and you will know peace. Be someone who genuinely seeks to understand and you will be wise. Be someone kind, someone considerate, and you will be admired. Be someone who values truth and you will be respected. Be someone who takes action and you will move life forward. Be someone who lifts others higher and your life will be rich. Be someone filled with gratitude and there will be no end to the things for which you will be thankful. Be someone who lives with joy, with purpose, as your own light brightly shines. Be in every moment the special someone you are truly meant to be. Once again, happy Father's Day. Thank you for being here this morning. God bless you and have a fabulous week.